Steve has a couple for now.
I just wanted to welcome Derek Pratt. Derek is the Director of Education and Public Programming at the Erie County. Derek has presented to us before and to the Schuylkill Historical Society, and he's on tap for June something or other, right?
Yes.
At Schuylkill again, so if you can make it out to see that, great.
Frequently at the library.
Okay, and talking about the Erie Canal, I just got out of a meeting with the Van Buren Town Supervisor and a counselor. We're planning a huge Erie Canal celebration on July 16th in Memphis. For those of you who don't know, the Erie Canal is turning 200 years this year. I'm talking about the real one that went south of here, not the one that, not the barge canal. So if you can make it out there, it'd be great. It's going to be a great event and also a chance to celebrate something that changed the course of human history, not just in Baldwinsville, but upstate New York and the whole country. So I hope folks can make it out there. So Derek, thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Derek. And Derek also lives in Beeville, so he is one of us, which makes it, I think, even more special. Anyway, our speaker tonight is Kate Kisselstein. Kate has spoken to us before. She is a historian at the Onondaga Historical Society. No, okay. What would you like to be?
Okay. I'm actually a local history and genealogy librarian at Onondaga County Public Libraries at the Central Library downtown.
That's it. Thank you. I got confused. It's the rain. It's all the rain.
It's the rain. It's the rain.
And tonight, Kate is going to talk about Beyond the Boardwalk, One Range Park, and Onondaga Lake that enters into it. Now, I know we're not old enough, none of us are old enough to remember when it was an amusement area. I remember my mom, who would have been well over 100, 104, I think this year, if she were alive. When she was small, she went there and, you know, told us about this stuff. Because by the time my sister and I were kids, it was kind of ugly and nasty. And the only thing that I think, looking around the room, our generation can remember about Onondaga Lake are the submarine races. And yes, they were very entertaining, very entertaining. So Kate, I'm going to give it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. So tonight, thank you for inviting me to come speak to you. The talk is Beyond the Boardwalk, Central New York's Resorts and the Long Branch Park Tornado of 1912. And it actually does mostly deal with Onondaga Lake Park, or Onondaga Lake rather. So, but first up, we have someone who's well known in Baldwinsville, and that is Harvey Baldwin. So sometime in early 1846, during a debate about the potential boundaries of a proposed city of Syracuse, Harvey Baldwin, then a well-known lawyer, outlined his vision for the rapidly growing village, which actually also had its 200th anniversary this year. In his address, Baldwin noted that it was already universally conceded that the village of Syracuse and its environs were to become a great inland town in the state and next in size and importance to New York and Buffalo. And the image here you see here is from the Christopher Collection, courtesy of the Baldwinsville Public Library at New York Heritage, and that's a site you can go to and view a lot of images that have been digitized for Baldwinsville Public Library. You'll also see some from Central Library and Liverpool Public Library, and I believe some from Onondaga Historical Association as well. So, Hanging Garden Baldwin, this was kind of his nickname. He became the first mayor of Syracuse. Baldwin envisioned Onondaga Lake's shores as ornamented with shady groves and hanging gardens, connected by a wide and splendid avenue that shall furnish a delightful drive to the prosperous citizens for pleasure, relaxation, or the improvement of health. He was initially derided by others because of his vision of what this proposed city of Syracuse could become. But just 2 years later, Harvey Baldwin would be elected the very first mayor of the newly incorporated city. Wow. And so this is just a little overview. First, I'll touch on some early resorts that were on the western shore of Onondaga Lake. Then some key attractions and events. including the tornado that touched down at Long Branch Park, the legacy of Onondaga Lake and Long Branch, and then there'll be time for questions and answers and comments. If you have trouble hearing me, or if I'm not speaking clearly enough, though, do kind of say, "Hey, Kate, I can't hear you," and I'll try and do my best to speak up. So most of my information came from this book, which is The Golden Age of Onondaga Lake Resorts, and that's where I found this map. It was really the best map I could find that outlined where most of the resorts were located on the lake. And it comes from it's still available online today. You can get it from the usual sellers, Amazon and so forth, but also Purple Mountain Press does have this book available. Donald Thompson's book is really a treasure trove of information, but you can kind of see where the different resorts were located.
Is it available in the library?
Yes, and several copies are available at your local public library. I shouldn't forget to say that. So the first major resort, our first stop, rather, along the shoreline is the Lakeview Point Hotel, which was the very first major resort to open on Onondaga Lake. It officially opened in early July of 1872, thanks to the vision and determination of Captain Fred Gagne. And apologies if I'm mispronouncing anybody's name, any name there. Even before the hotel was built, Captain Gagne had been drawing people to this spot with his famous chowder parties, starting in 1871. He would ferry guests from Syracuse aboard his steamer, the Sperry, giving them a chance to enjoy the peaceful scenery and good company at what was then just a scenic point along the lakeshore. The hotel itself was located near the mouth of 9 Mile Creek, a perfect vantage point that offered expansive lake views and easy steamboat access. Visitors could board boats right from Clinton Square in downtown Syracuse, which added to the sense of a getaway, even if it was only a few miles from home. Over time, Lakeview Point evolved from a simple fishing and leisure spot into a full-scale resort with entertainment, dining, and events, the kind of place where city folks could escape for the day or a weekend and experience the lake's natural beauty in a more curated, comfortable setting. Lakeview Point truly set the tone for what would become a golden era of resorts around Onondaga Lake. After Lakeview Point, the next major lakeside resort to emerge was Cowan's Grove, later known as Pleasant Beach, which opened in 1874. It became especially beloved for its sandy shoreline and spring-fed waters, quickly earning the reputation as the best swimming beach on Onondaga Lake. By the 1890s, the resort had grown into a full-fledged destination. A glowing letter written in August 1890 and transcribed by Eleanor Christopher describes it as the largest, finest, and best-equipped hotel on the lake, with a French chef in the kitchen and meals served on the European plan. Guests could enjoy not just swimming, but also rowing, fishing, a roller coaster, bowling alley, museum, even a dancing pavilion with live music from a 7-piece orchestra. One charming detail, the hotel grounds included a fountain with live fish, and yes, even a real alligator. There were bears and deer for the children, a barn room for over 300 horses, and even a check room for the riding crops and whips that accompanied those. A reminder of how differently people traveled then. Though its golden era passed by the 1920s, Pleasant Beach Hotel stood until 1954. Its legacy lingers as one of the most vibrant and charming stops along Onondaga Lake's shoreline. And this was a quote from the letter: "Enjoy life while you live, for you'll be a long time dead." Although he did attribute it to an anonymous philosopher that we suspected was his own. And then in 1882, Ben and George Maurer, along with Fred Shug, purchased land along the northern shore of Onondaga Lake to create what would become Long Branch Park, one of the lake's most iconic and long-lasting resorts. Designed as a full amusement destination from the very beginning, Long Branch quickly became a favorite for Central New Yorkers. It featured a hotel, bathing houses, restaurants, a dance hall, a roller coaster, and regular live entertainment. The park also had a small zoo, picnic groves, boat rentals, and even baseball grounds. It made it a go-to location for both large group outings and casual day trippers. Visitors arrived by trolley, steamboat, and carriage, especially on busy summer weekends. One of its most beloved additions came in 1926, a beautifully carved carousel built by the Philadelphia Toboggan Company in 1909. That very carousel is still in operation today, fully restored and now located inside what is now known as Destiny USA, the mall that was originally named Carousel Center in its honor. And while the original amusement park era faded by 1938, a version of Long Branch Park still exists today as part of the Onondaga County Park System. Locals still gather there for picnics, walks, and annual events, something we'll touch on again later in the legacy section. But first, we turn to a major turning point in the resort's history. No, we don't. That's a typo. I forgot the end of my notes. So next up, actually, we have the Iron Pier, which was established in 1888 by the People's Railroad Company as a strategic move to increase trolley usage. Interestingly, despite its name, the pier was constructed mainly of wood, stretching an impressive 600 feet into Onondaga Lake. This resort quickly became a bustling hub of activity, offering visitors a variety of entertainments such as dining facilities, bowling alleys, a carousel, billiards, and live concerts. It also functioned as a key steamboat landing, enhancing its accessibility and appeal. However, by 1906, the Iron Pier saw a decline in patronage. The expansion of suburban rail lines to other resorts provided more options for leisure seekers, leading to increased competition. Additionally, evolving transportation preferences contributed to its eventual closure. Today, the legacy of the Iron Pier is remembered as a significant part of Onondaga Lake's rich recreational history. Maple Bay Resort, however, was established in 1889 by Willis S. Barnum, a Civil War veteran with big ambitions. The hotel was completed in 1890, and just a year later, local newspapers were calling it the king of all summer resorts. An 1891 advertisement boasted that it was easily reached by DL&W Railroad or by steamers from Geddes Pier or Iron Pier. It highlighted the largest grove on the lake, cool and shady, and watered with cold spring waters. A fine hotel where the finest dinners in central New York can be procured, a museum, and the largest pier on the lake. They even emphasized the presence of uniformed police on the grounds at all times, a sign both of its popularity and the desire to keep order. Around 1899, the resort was renamed Lakeside Park. It hosted music, dancing, and even boxing matches, but that last activity proved to be its undoing. A fatal bare-knuckle fight during the first decade of the 1900s tarnished the resort's family-friendly image, and in its final years, it became a site for gang-related turf wars involving youth from Tipperary Hill, Baldwinsville, Liverpool, and Solvay. These events, combined with the shifting recreational trends of the era, marked the decline of what had once been the grandest of the lake's resorts. From the king of all summer resorts, we now turn to two of the lake's smallest and most short-lived retreats. The Manhattan Beach Hotel opened in 1890, situated between two better-known neighbors, Rockaway Beach and Pleasant Beach. It offered a hotel and a waiting beach, but being caught between two more established resorts likely contributed to its early decline. It was one of the first to disappear from the lakeshore. A few years later, in the late 1890s, the main resort appeared near the shoreline, a modest establishment opened by John Rosie Miller. The name likely referenced the USS Maine, whose destruction helped spark the Spanish-American War. This small resort offered a hotel and a boat livery that catered primarily to fishermen. It was still in operation as late as 1904, but never reached the scale of Onondaga Lake's larger destinations. These small ventures didn't make lasting marks, but they reflect how widespread the resort boom had become and how fierce the competition was along nearly every stretch of shoreline. And Rockaway Beach Resort was founded in 1892 by Captain John Hecker, another Civil War veteran, who purchased land from the Cowan family. The resort featured a hotel, saloon, dance pavilion, bowling alleys, and picnic groves, a familiar mix of attractions in this era, but Rockaway's central location between Maple Bay and Pleasant Beach made it especially popular. In the winter of 1900, the Rockaway Hotel added an unexpected feather to its cap when it became the home for the Onondaga Lake Ice Yacht Club. Ice yachting was an exhilarating winter sport that combined the elegance of sailing with the speed of skating. The club's formation shows how these resorts weren't just summer destinations, they were social centers year-round. Like many other resorts, Rockaway eventually declined, and by 1954, its remaining buildings were demolished to make way for the construction of Route 690. But for a time, it represented both the leisure and the sporting life of turn-of-the-century Syracuse. As we leave behind the era of shoreline resorts, let's shift our focus to some of the lake's most iconic attractions and events, the experiences that drew crowds, shaped traditions, and left a lasting mark on the region. So, while many resorts catered to large crowds and lively amusements, the Syracuse Yacht Club, founded in 1898, offered something a little more refined. Located on the western shore of Onondaga Lake, the club built an impressive clubhouse, a hub for both serious sailing and stylish socializing. Regattas, evening dinners, and seasonal events were common, and its membership was drawn largely from Syracuse's upper, middle, and upper class. And it's a reminder that lake recreation came in many forms, not just dance pavilions and roller coasters. For some, Onondaga Lake offered a sense of elegance and escape, anchored by tradition, prestige, and wind on the water. In 1899, the Syracuse, Lakeshore, and Baldwinsville Railroad, or SL&B for short, extended its trolley line to reach both Long Branch Park and the village of Baldwinsville, improving access to the lake from downtown Syracuse and beyond. This expansion was about more than just convenience. It played a major role in shaping how residents experienced the lake, making it possible for people of modest means to reach places that had previously been reserved for those with carriages or steamboat access. That same year, the SL&B opened the Rustic Theater, located just south of Maple Bay Resort. It offered live performances and a bit of open-air drama, one more way the lake began to blend nature, leisure, and culture. Together, the trolley line and the theater show how infrastructure and entertainment often worked hand in hand, a pattern we'll see again very soon with White City. If the Rustic Theater was a charming lakeside outpost, White City was a full-on spectacle. In 1906, the Syracuse, Lakeshore, and Northern Railroad, a separate line from the SL&B, built White City Amusement Park near the southern end of Onondaga Lake. Their goal? Increase ridership by giving people a reason to ride the trolley line on evenings and weekends. Like many so-called trolley parks around the country, White City was designed to dazzle. It was modeled after the grand White City of the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, with bright lights, elegant architecture, and a clean, almost futuristic look. The park featured a full suite of amusements: rides, carnival games, live performances, and elaborate electric light displays that would have felt positively magical at the time. It's a vivid example of how the early 20th century was an era of engineered entertainment, and how railroads weren't just moving people, they were creating destinations. Following the success of White City and the rising popularity of lakeside destinations, the Syracuse Lakeshore and Northern Railroad continued to expand its reach. In 1909, the SL&N trolley line was extended to Fulton, New York, and by 1911, it reached all the way to Oswego, connecting Onondaga Lake with communities across central and northern New York. These extensions weren't just about infrastructure. They had a real impact on the way Central New Yorkers experienced recreation and entertainment. With trolley access now reaching as far as Fulton and Oswego, visitors from outlying towns could more easily attend major events at Onondaga Lake, including the already established New York State Fair and the more recently established vibrant evening spectacle known as the Canoe Carnival. These expanded connections help reinforce Onondaga Lake's status as the region's recreational heart, drawing families, performers, vendors, and thrill seekers from all across central and northern New York. Here's a bit of local trivia that may surprise some of you, and maybe not. But the very first state fair in the United States was held right here in Syracuse on September 29th and 30th, 1841. That first fair drew between 10 and 15,000 people who came to hear speeches, watch plowing contests, and view exhibits of livestock, machinery, and household goods. But it wasn't until 1890 that the fair was given a permanent home on the western shore of Onondaga Lake. That move marked the beginning of the fair as we know it today, sprawling, festive, and an annual highlight for New Yorkers from all across the state. The new location made sense. It was centrally located, had growing access to trolley and train service, and could accommodate both crowds and animals. Over the decades, it became one of the largest and most celebrated state fairs in the country, complete with rides, exhibitions, vendors, and countless family memories. But in its early years, along the lake, the fair was mostly a daytime affair, which is what led to the creation of a spectacular nighttime companion event started in 1905, the Canoe Carnival. By 1903, the future of the state fair in Syracuse was looking uncertain. Attendance was lagging, and many blamed the fact that the fair offered only daytime programming. Getting to the fairgrounds was also a challenge for many, with horse and buggy still the primary mode of transportation. The State Fair Commissioner even considered relocating the fair to another city. Several had expressed interest, which would have been a serious economic blow to Syracuse. In response, local leaders and citizens rallied together to create something special, a series of nighttime festivities designed to keep visitors in town overnight. The result was the Canoe Carnival, which launched in 1905. It featured floats, parades, pageants, song and dance shows, and the ceremonial crowning of a Canoe king and queen, along with their full royal court. The carnival often incorporated Native American-inspired themes, intended as a tribute to the region's earliest inhabitants. For over a decade, the Canoe Carnival became the magical after-hours heartbeat of Fair Week, and it worked. The fair stayed in Syracuse. By 1917, the fair had begun offering its own evening entertainment, making the carnival less essential. But just as Onondaga Lake's golden age of celebration was reaching its height, a powerful force of nature would leave its mark on one of its most beloved destinations, Long Branch Park. According to various accounts, the tornado struck at about 5:30 p.m. on Sunday, September 15, 1912. Perhaps most interestingly, in the Monday evening edition of the Norwich Sun, which reported as follows: a terrible rainstorm and miniature tornado broke over the town of Salina in the vicinity of Syracuse Sunday night and wrought havoc and devastation in its path. Among those killed are George W. Dock, a 26-year-old motorman whose trolley car number 3 would be torn from the tracks, never to arrive at Long Branch Park. And what follows are some images that I took from newspapers, that microfilm images that can be seen at Central Library. The image on the left is of trolley car number 3. And the image on the right is folks 2 days later viewing the aftermath of the tornado tearing through what had been Long Branch Park. And again, more pictures from the Tuesday, the following Tuesday, including a picture of the dance pavilion, which, despite what you see on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side had been more, it suffered more damage on the left-hand side of that picture. So, at Long Branch Park, did not end. It rebuilt. But we did see a decline in the resort era. So while the early decades of the 20th century saw Onondaga Lake at its most vibrant, that golden era didn't last. One of the major factors in the decline of the resorts was environmental, as industrial development increased around the lake, particularly from Solvay Process Company and other manufacturers. Water quality suffered. Pollution made swimming and other water recreation less appealing, and in some cases, unsafe. At the same time, broader social changes were underway. The rise of the automobile gave people greater freedom to explore destinations beyond the trolley lines and steamboat routes that had once funneled them to Onondaga Lake. Leisure habits began to shift. Some resorts, like the Lakeview Point, closed as early as the 1910s. Others, like Long Branch Park, continued operating until 1938. But by the time the Great Depression hit, many of the lakeside attractions had already begun to fade away, either due to falling attendance or financial hardship. Still, the impact of these resorts lived on, shaping how Central New Yorkers thought about summertime recreation and the lake itself. And one of the legacies from Long Branch Park is its carousel, which, as I stated earlier, still continues today. The picture on the left is of the carousel and the roller coaster and other rides at Long Branch Park circa 1929, so that's roughly 3 years after the carousel was installed at Long Branch Park. The picture in the middle is actually of my grandparents. My grandma and grandpa Palmer, who loved to go for rides on that carousel, and that's a picture of them circa 1933. And then the picture on the right is the carousel it's circa 1990, but it's the carousel much as we can see it today, now where it is at Destiny, USA. Its 42 horses were carefully restored back in, I have it in my notes here. But they carefully restored it around 1990 and reopened it to the public. So. And Long Branch Park and Onondaga Lake Park continues to be a source of entertainment for countless people, from walkers to runners to cyclists to boaters. And with that, thank you very much for having me.
Okay, that was wonderful. Wonderful. I always liked the park. My parents were born in 1921, and that was like the right time for my mom to go there. Her family lived on the north side of the city, so they weren't that far away. And she had really neat stories to tell about going there. They were fun, blah, blah. It was really nice to see the pictures. But this was very good. I loved it. Anybody have any comments or questions? Oh, over here. Let me put the lights on. Yeah.
Where was the carousel stored all the years in between?
It actually went to, it was actually in Canandaigua, I want to say. Roseland Park in Canandaigua.
Roseland.
Yeah.
So for at least part of the time, it was a functioning carousel there.
It was, yes. It was sold in 1941, and it went to Roseland Park in Canandaigua. And I just found my note that it came to Carousel Center October 15th, 1990. And if anyone's interested in doing some more reading about the resorts and the history of Long Branch, I've got a handout with some notes.
Yeah, I would like to have. Oh, we've got questions or handouts?
Oh, yes.
On the second to last slide on the right-hand side, it was a map of the lake with the resorts kind of pinned off to the side. See, where is that available?
Wait, this map or?
Yes, that one.
This one. That one I actually took a picture of. That's near the marina in Onondaga Lake Park. And there's a few different ones scattered through the park.
But it doesn't have the pictures?
The other
You add
one,
those pictures to it?
sorry for going through so quickly, but this one is in Donald Thompson's book. That one's in Donald Thompson's book, which is the only place I could find a good map for that.
Question behind it.
Yes, hi.
You mentioned at least one of the parks had direct service to Clinton Square. Does that mean there was a way for Erie Canal boats to enter the lake?
I believe so at the time. That would have been, I believe that was Captain, yes, because that was the Sperry. That was this one, I believe, the Sperry. Let me see. Yes. Visitors could board boats right from Clinton Square in downtown Syracuse, so there we go. Yeah.
Where they
Yeah, 'cause-
got into the lake? They could go all the way up along the
Come up the Oswego Canal, perhaps?
Perhaps, yeah. We'll have to trace the route.
Do we have any more comments or questions?
I was also curious about the interplay between industry and some of those parks look very close to the Solvay Process Company. What was
Yeah.
that relationship like?
Yeah. That's a really good question. Yes, I know the part that I didn't touch on is that the Solvay Process there was the flood in 1943 of the sludge that came through and flooded the fairgrounds. There was like a wall of sludge that came through. Yeah. So it wasn't the greatest.
Got another question.
Question. At the
Yes.
bottom of that map, it looks like there's some sort of a Frontenac Sport. I can't read it properly.
Yes,
Is
that's
there a port?
Frontenac Sport. It says, if I can see it better.
Yeah.
1696. I didn't know my computer didn't have Yeah,
That was back in the 1500s.
yeah.
Kate, are there any remnants of any of these places left you can see today?
Yes, there is, which is the one that has it? I was just going through my notes today too. It's either Pleasant Beach or Rockaway Beach. There's remnants of the pier can still be seen from the air.
But on New York Heritage, there's a few pictures that could have been of leavings of foundations.
Yeah, if you go on the New York Heritage website, which I believe is newyorkheritage.org, and actually, I should just look on my handout and see. It might be on there. I don't have it on here. Well, you can email me and I'll send you the link. But on the New York Heritage website, you can go in, you can look for the different names. You can also just see what different pictures are out there of Onondaga Lake. You can do a search for Onondaga Lake. I did find a lot of them from the this collection, the Schulke collection from Liverpool Public Library, of a lot of the different resorts. Oh, she can't see me. Yeah. Yes.
The trolley line, there's an old reference to a trolley line in the town of Van Buren off of North Brickyard Road. Is that where the trolley actually came up through?
One came out of the village, right across the river, and crossed the river and came up along Stafford Boulevard.
so it's not the same.
That's quite a bit of information about.
You see that track right there? That, if you follow that back to the north, that goes right along State Road.
Ruth Connell wrote a booklet for McCary Day once, and that's on Trolley. That tells what available. Trolley Trivia, I think it is.
Oh, the trolley trivia book, yes. There's one in the local history room at Baldwinsville Public Library.
And there's also one to take out, but there's a lot of pictures in it too. Maps, I should say.
It's called Trolley
Trolley
Trivia.
Trivia by Ruth Connell.
Yeah, I want to get this one.
I'm going to need to amend my handbook.
This is great. Any other questions, comments? And did anybody go there in the old days when you were kids? My mom used to take us there. The Salt Museum was one of my favorite places. Loved that. But then we would walk along the shore and you'd find those little tiny spirally shells, you know, and pick those out. We thought that was such a big deal. And on the other side of the lake, like the Lakeland side, when you were driving along, there was one spot where the water was absolutely green, and it always smelled like mothballs. Yeah, it was the pollution. It was just one thing that stuck with us like kids. You know, it's like, oh, that smells like our, yeah, that smells like our Anne Marie's closet. Mothballs. Yeah. But now it's so much better though. I mean, the fish have come back and, you know, a lot better than it used to go.
There was also where you see the fort, St. Marie. Does anybody remember the salt pool where you go swimming? There's a bathhouse right off of Old Liverpool Road. It wasn't in the lake, it was next to the lake, right? There was a big swimming area there. We used to go there quite a bit.
I think my mom did.
It was really nice.
We're near
Right, if you look where the south, where the fort is, just a little bit south, back towards Syracuse, let's say that that's Old Liverpool Parkway.
Right.
On the right-hand side of that, as you're going towards the fort, was Salt Pool. There was something about a pool coming, a spring coming out with salt water, because that fed the salt brine. Anyway, across the street, more towards the lake, was a bathing house, and there were several pools there. We were swimming there a lot. I mean, it was a public area.
My mother told us about that. Now, would that be your, what's it called, the Jesuit well?
Right, the Jesuit well, correct.
Right, and there's those two, that little pond?
Right, there's two ponds there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That was all constructed during the 30s.
In the 30s, during the CCCs, that's what it was.
Part of the works progress.
Part of the Public Works Project,
Yeah.
CCCs.
And much of the stonework is still there.
Yes. Yeah, I tell you, it's just such interesting history here. So interesting.
You do?
Any other questions, comments for Kate? Kate, did you want to say anything about what you're doing at the library? Genealogy project?
Yes, I suppose it should. Well, I do have, if you're interested in genealogy at all, the next talk I have for Baldwinsville Public Library, which is going to be in person or hybrid, it's tracing the hidden half, finding and documenting your female ancestors. I use a case study of one of my great-great-great-grandmothers who was married 3 times and outlived all 3 of her husbands. So trying to trace back and find her maiden name, because maiden names are typically hard to find when you're doing your genealogy. And so that will be Wednesday, May 21st from 6 to about 7:15 p.m. at Baldwinsville Public Library. Other than that, I do have, if you want to do something that's virtual, I will just make a shameless little plug for my genealogy group, which meets the 4th Friday of every month on Zoom. And that will be Friday, May 23rd and hopefully I get the title right, 1825, A Year of Changes, the Village of Syracuse and Its Ties to the Erie Canal. So, and I'm going to feature a little section on doing pre-1850s genealogy research to tie it into the genealogy group. I had intended to do it in April to coincide with the actual anniversary because the village of Syracuse was incorporated on April 13th, 1825, but things fell through, so I figured I'd do it for May because I learned that the centennial was held in June, so in 1925 in June, so I figured in May in 2025, that's fine, yeah.
Kate, what about what you're doing for the Friends in June?
Oh, with my mother, we are doing coffee, pie, and Al Palmer, and that will be Monday, June 9th at what time?
11. I think 11.
At 11 a.m., and that's at the Baldwinsville Public Library for Friends of the Baldwinsville Public Library.
And so folks who don't know who Al Palmer was, who is he?
Al Palmer is... Right there.
Oh, I didn't know that was.
The gentleman in that picture. Just a little bit younger than when he was making pies, though. That's before he was the pie man. But that's my maternal grandfather and my mom's dad. So,
My mother.
well, yeah, that's it. We're talking about it. You're going to be your dad.
And so, was he there?
Palmer's Diner, which is where Sal's is now. Yeah. And
As a kid, right?
yeah, and Albert Palmer Lane is him.
Great, well, thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you.
And Cindy from Penn BTV. Thank you all for coming. Don't forget that the next meeting is going to be Tuesday, September 2nd.